Nik Gagvani with Kastle Systems. I'm the general manager here for video, and we're here to talk about how you can simplify property management and improve security without breaking the bank. We can do it with video. So again, thanks for joining. We're going to make this interactive. On GoToMeeting, on your screens, you should see a little icon that looks like a hand. So you should be able to raise your hand and submit any question you would like to ask. So definitely feel free to interrupt and ask questions as we go along. So let me start off by showing you this picture here. And this is something that's fairly typical. Many of you may have seen this. It's a video monitor showing 9 security cameras. It's quite typical of what you would see at a guard station when there's video monitoring happening. And generally in the security operations center, you may see many of these monitors that have possibly tens, if not hundreds, of cameras in larger facilities. And the fact of the matter is that as the number of cameras have grown, the number of people that are able to watch them has not grown at the same rate. Matter of fact, the total number of cameras in use worldwide exceeded the number of people, and that's not just for security. It includes all the cameras we have on our cell phones and tablets and whatnot. The point being that there's just too many cameras now compared to what we had 20, 30 years ago. So it's hard or really expensive to watch them all the time. And even if you had the people to sit there and watch all this video, it turns out watching video is not really effective. You could have a person look at a computer screen or a monitor with one camera feed, a single camera feed, and studies have shown, in fact, Harvard did some studies back in the late 90s, and there have been others since then, and what it showed is that 20 minutes is about how long you can have a person, a human, be effective at watching one camera before they sort of tune out. and given that, it's not effective to watch video live, and there's just way too many cameras, what could we do? So the fact that you have cameras and you have guards does not necessarily translate to better security. Well, then what does? So the way I'm going to cover this is in a myth and fact format. The first myth that we often encounter is that video cameras provide great security and can prevent crime. I would say this is only partly true, right? So video cameras do provide security. They are your best security tool and your best crime fighting tool. But up to this point, it's not been possible to prevent crime easily with video cameras unless you really have a lot of people watching that. So the fact of the matter is most video cameras are not watched live because you can't, just way too many cameras out there. And even if you did, it would be quite ineffective, which means that your video cameras, your video security system is used forensically. It's used after the fact as a crime-solving tool. You have a break-in, you have a claim filed, what have you. You have an argument, a fight. You're going to go back and review that video and try to find the video evidence, if you will, right? And so most video is used after the fact. Now, that's easier said than done because forensic video review just has not been easy. There's a lot of cameras, a lot of video being generated, a lot of data out there. And certainly if you have more than a couple of cameras, it can be quite labor intensive to go out and find what happened, even with the best of tools out there. Unless you happen to know, hey, this happened exactly at 10 o'clock in view of this camera, it's going to be a long journey to find it. A lot of times it can be disruptive and expensive. You're all trying to manage your properties and your communities, and the last thing you want is to spend half your day or someone on your staff do that to go and pull video or evidence for law enforcement. When the police show up, they say, hey, I would like you to give me video from last night through this morning for 12 cameras. That's a lot of work to do that. Or in some cases, they may actually take away the recorder, the DVR, And when they do that, clearly do not have a functioning system, on site, and you got to replace it. A lot of times, despite the fact that you have a system in place and you go look for things, and some of you may have encountered this, you may not find the video you're looking for because the camera may have failed, weeks or months ago, or the recorder may be full or having failures, and no one's just noticed. And so it's a little too late to find that out after the fact. It's kind of like insurance, it's too late to buy it, after the fact. So it's important that your system tell you if it's going to be degrading or having failures, and be proactive from that point of view. So today, video security is not easy. It's generally recognized as a great tool for solving crime. If you look at any of the major incidents we have had in the past decade, whether it's the Boston Marathon bombings or the London bombings or what have you, video has been the most powerful tool in solving those crimes. Yet it ends up being pretty hard to use. Is there a solution? Certainly, with all the advances we have had in technology, I'm here to tell you that there is. So if you go back and look at just broadly, how did we go look for information, right? 15 years ago, if you wanted to look something up, what did you do, right? If I were to answer that, I would say, yeah, probably picked up the phone book to look up a business or the yellow pages. Maybe go to the library and spend a few hours to go research a topic. Phone a friend, perhaps. It was not easy to do that. Well, today we don't do that. We just go on Google, we get on our search engines, and we type in whatever we care to look for. And sometimes it's trivial information that we may never have dreamt of looking for 15 years ago. So search engines, search technology in general has just completely changed the way we go about doing our business and conducting our daily lives, what we do. It's just so ingrained into what we do. Can we have something like that? Can we have a search engine for video? It's not existed historically, but I'm here to tell you that now you can have it. And video is just a massive amount of data. If you look at any given day, the amount of internet traffic, 40% or more of that is video, right? At peak times when everyone's streaming video from YouTube or what have you, that can be as high as 70-80%. So that's a lot of data to deal with, right? No one can really look at it automatically or manually. So you've got to have an automatic process. Another analogy here would be, we all take, I'm guessing, a lot of pictures today because it's digital, it's easy to take. We all have it on our phones. And what that results in is, you have this proliferation. You've got more pictures than you can, organize and find. And so, a couple of years later, you're trying to find just that perfect shot. It's pretty hard to go sift through all that and find it. Now, video actually compounds that further because now imagine trying to take your photos, and video is just a bunch of photos taken about many times a second, 10, 15, 30 times a second. That problem becomes pretty hard from a search point of view. But fortunately, there is a solution here. There's a technology called video analytics that makes your camera smart. And what it means is that it's actually doing some analysis on your video. Again, the processors in our phones and our tablets that are behind these cameras are pretty powerful. They can do a whole bunch of very interesting, meaningful functions. And if you take similar processors and employ them to actually find you things in video, perhaps that could be useful. So the way video analytics does this is shown here. So let's take an example. Here's an example of a parking garage. It's pretty typical view. And let's say we took a snapshot of this garage at 1:24 p.m. And then we continued taking snapshots, and at 1:26 p.m., this is what that snapshot looks like. So I can see a couple of people in that snapshot, and I would like the camera to automatically tell me that, hey, there are people in your garage, for example. What's a way to do that? So as an example, I could take some software that would tell me the difference between these two pictures, the one at the top and the one at the bottom. And we call that a change detection process, a change detection software, right? What it does is, you can see here in the blue portion is what's not changed at all. And then, all the other colors that you're seeing are pixels that actually changed. So if you just do this, to us, looking at it with our eyes and obviously with all of our, human perception built into our brains, we can clearly say, hey, there are two people there. For a camera, that's been pretty hard, right? Teaching cameras to see happens to be a problem that scientists have looked at for a long time and have made a lot of progress. So once the camera sees this change, which is not unlike what you would see with motion detection, it kind of knows there's something here, but it has no idea whether that change has occurred because there's leaves blowing out there, there's shadows being cast, there's headlights of cars sweeping through, is it trees and foliage? We have no idea. It could be anything, right? So what video analytics does next is it starts doing the same analysis over multiple frames of video, right? So when the next one comes in at 1/26 and a fraction of a second later, it's doing the same change detection and continues to do that. And over time, it's saying there's some change here that seems to be moving in a pattern, okay? And so that's what you see here on the top right, and it's building this trajectory. It's building this history. We call it object tracking. And so now it knows, wait a minute, there must be something real. It's not moving like shaking tree branches or leaves blowing in the wind. And then it goes off and does something called object classification. This is really interesting technology. What it does is it's a form of artificial intelligence. And what it does is it really tries to look at examples of what humans look like in video. And it's trained with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of examples of what people look like, what leaves look like, what cars look like, and so on and so forth. And so it tries to create a template and match it, and over multiple frames it says, yes, that definitely is a person there. In fact, there are two people here. And so it's got a box around each of those two people, and at that point, should you choose to be informed about it, it can tell you about it, or more importantly, it can drive that search. So the way Google does search today is they're going out and crawling the entire web, and they go and catalog all the information that's out on the web. So when you run that search, it's not going out and looking for it again, it's just drawing from its catalog. It's the same idea here. So the cameras, once they have video analytics, they get smarter, and these smarts let them go out and catalog everything that they are seeing, and it's that catalog that you can go back and search. So very revolutionary, very, very exciting, and that kind of just changes the whole game. It changes the way you would look at video and consume it entirely. Here's an example of how you would go ahead and use it. In fact, this happens to be from one of our customers that had a slip and fall claim. You can see a parking lot view, pretty typical. There's some cars. There happens to be retail at the street level here. That's the back parking lot. And so this customer had video surveillance at their in the parking lot, and they had a slip and fall claim that was filed. So someone said, hey, there was water in the parking lot or something slippery, and I slipped and fell around 10 p.m. And they were seeking damages for that. So it was a claim that they had to investigate. And so certainly you can go ahead and do that with video recording systems today. That's what they do. So let's try and find what happened around 10 p.m. So we back it up for about 5 minutes and start playing. You can see the clock here at the bottom rolling. So it's playing back this video. As you can imagine, that this gets pretty boring pretty soon. And certainly you can fast forward through video, but if you go too fast, you may miss something that may have happened. So clearly not a great way to look for evidence or go back and investigate an incident. And you can almost imagine if you had 5 or 10 cameras and you weren't sure where the slip and fall happened, that would take even longer. Well, fortunately, this customer happened to have our search engine here, driven with video analytics, and so you just, like any search engine, punch in the camera name, which is the parking lot camera, and say, hey, look for events between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. just to be more expansive and broad, make sure we don't miss anything. And when you go ahead and do that, it actually, like any search engine should, it gives you 3 results here. Okay? And these happen to be video results, which is great. It's fantastic. I can go back and play back and look at what happened at those times. So, for example, here's an example. Here's the first one that happened at 9:58. It looks like someone, left the parking lot, car pulling out, not a slip and fall. Let's look at the second one that happened, about half a minute later. Not a slip and fall either, just the car leaving. Okay. Let's look at the last one here. Okay, that looks like a person on a bike. Did not slip and fall, crashed right past. Perhaps not a slip and fall here either, but wait a minute. So if you notice what happened here, we just had someone come back from the building, and they just had a bucket of water that's been spilled in the parking lot, and that's a problem. So what had happened in this case was that the person on the bike basically saw opportunity. They saw this water being dropped off or dumped in the parking lot, and they thought, hey, let me just file a claim and see if we can make some money. So A, the claim was false, dismissed, but B, here's what the property manager did next. Because they had the power of search, the search engine, they went back to the search engine and said, hey, let me just go back and look around 10 p.m. what may have happened over the past week, right? And they ran that search, and lo and behold, they saw the cleaning crew doing this every single night. There's soap water in the parking lot, which is a huge liability for these folks. So clearly they had a conversation with their cleaning staff and put a stop to that practice. But it became more than a security tool at that point, right? Now they go in and do spot checks and run searches across their whole portfolio, and that lets them, avoid these sorts of liabilities that they could be facing, among other things, which I'm going to discuss here in a second. Now let's go back to that recorded DVR video, which are systems you likely have today or are considering. I mean, it still hasn't shown me the first car pulling out, so. In less than the time it took me to have that first car leave, we have completed the investigation and likely gone back and reviewed the activity that happened in the past week. Just super powerful. Very quick to go review and act on. I mean, that's what matters. We want to act on it. All right. So video analytics can do a lot. It can power search, but it can be used for other things. So one of the myths that we hear a lot is that, hey, I have a video system, but it's to be used by the guards, and we can see it at the guard station, and I can't really use it on my desk, or it's hard to do that. I can't use it on my iPad at home. You need special software to do that. Mostly true, but clearly the world's changed and changing. Today we expect to consume our entertainment anywhere on any device. So I can get YouTube on my phone, on my tablet, anywhere you want. So the same applies here for video. You should expect to get access to your video system from anywhere, and just as reliably as you get to YouTube. Okay, you don't want to keep wondering, hey, is YouTube going to be up, or do I have to remember some IP addresses and all kinds of do all kinds of other software downloads to be able to play it? No, you go to youtube.com and start streaming. It should be that simple, right? And so today the good news is you can do that. In fact, you can do better. If you have an existing video system, you don't have to throw it out. You can convert that to a system that can give you the search capability, that can give you the web-based instant access anywhere. And oh, by the way, that access is not just limited to live look-ins. As we talked about at the beginning, when you have a live video setup, such as we showed on the monitor in the guard desk, unless you're watching all the time, you're just going to be lucky if you find something that you really care about, right? So most of the time you want to look at recorded video or go back and search. And so you should be able to do that again from any device and be able to share that with anyone you wish. And that's really important. The way that's all possible today is through the power of the cloud. Again, just as we have all embraced and continue to use search technology, there's any number of services now that are coming in and delivered online, all the way from e-commerce or banking to entertainment, file sharing, even email to an extent is all coming online. So cloud video simplifies your system and brings all of these advantages that we've been talking about without you having to make that big investment, right? So today, again, just going back to the Netflix or the YouTube analogy, if you had to take all that content and be assured that you can view it anytime, you could, in fact, get all that content, put it on big servers, in your facility, and then rest assured that you can get access to it anytime. That used to be the old way. Unfortunately, the video surveillance, solutions available on the market today and up to this point have had that model where you've got to buy the servers, you've got to buy all the software, you got to run it, you got to keep it updated, and when it breaks, you're the ones trying to figure out what's broken, and that just doesn't make any sense anymore in today's world, right? You expect to get it as a service, and that just keeps your life simple. You do not want to be worried about, hey, can someone log in? Is their device good? Do I have to bring in someone from IT to authorize them? I have video in 3 different communities or properties that are spread out across town, across the country. How could I better manage those and look at those without having to, involve a whole bunch of, resources and infrastructure to do that? You want a capability called federation, similar to, what you expect with online services. If you have 3 or 4 or 5 locations, really you should want to be able to go to a single website and see all those cameras, provided you're authorized to have access. And you can mix and match cameras across views. So that's a real powerful capability. For example, if you had a property, a building, and you had a parking operator, let's say, that operated the parking garage or the parking decks, and you only wanted to provide access to the parking cameras to the parking operator, you should be able to do that without actually buying more software and servers, right? And when they log in, they should just be able to see the cameras in the garage. If the same operator is managing 2 of your properties across the street, they should be able to see both garages, okay, when they log in, but nothing else. Similarly, if you got a major tenant in your building, in your property that needs access to certain floors that are in the public areas, they should be able to get access to just those cameras and none others. So that's the concept of federation. You want your system to be able to do that flexibly without requiring additional software licenses or additional expense. And then lastly, you pull all this together, and one of the concerns obviously that people have with video is, hey, it's going to take a lot of space, it's going to require me to upgrade my internet pipes. Not true. Some of the solutions we are looking at here do not continuously use internet bandwidth. In fact, they work really well with cellular connections. And in remote locations, if you have a parking deck that's remote or construction going on, perhaps that may not even have an internet feed, it works fantastic over cellular connection, and you still get the same level of access that you would with a system that's connected or hardwired to an internet feed. So overall, the cloud is definitely simplifying what you do and giving you a lot more with the smarts and the search capability that we just reviewed. So what does all this mean to you as someone that's managing assets or properties and is basically trying to do your jobs more efficiently, right? And oftentimes we hear that, yes, we have a video security system or we're looking for one, but it's the guards that are going to use it, or my facilities people are going to use it, and we don't need to access it. In fact, the truth of the matter is, once you have this power of search across your portfolio, across multiple functions within your organization, you can and should use video because it lets you do your job better right from your desk. It's equivalent to having a pair of intelligent eyes anywhere you need them at a very affordable price point. So why would you not? And here are some examples of what that can do for you and what it's doing for folks in environments such as the ones that you manage. For example, if you wanted to know when contractors and vendors arrive and leave, you could do that. Certainly, you could do that with a live video feed, but then you've got other things to do besides watching that live video feed. With the power of video analytics that we talked about, you can get a notification when a contractor arrives on at your property in the morning to clear the snow, for example, right? You could get a notification of your vendor, arriving and leaving, whether that's for a fixed job, they're doing landscaping or fixing or cleaning or what have you. And so if you got billed for, I don't know, 3 hours of work and you noticed that they were just on site for an hour and a half, certainly that's a conversation to be had. Anything that you might have imagined, oh, I probably need to drive over and check on something, you could probably do that with a video camera that just tells you when stuff happens, or you can go back and review it. A great example is the loading dock. We have had customers that complain about, either people blocking the loading dock and then having the guards having to walk around and go around, which is an inconvenience, or there are folks that are using the dumpsters in and around the loading dock area, or potentially causing damage in the loading dock. You can go back and search for those things and put an end to that very quickly, very easily. Events that you have scheduled in and around your properties, you want to make sure that the event ends and the party is not continuing through the night, that it's cleaned up, the garbage is removed, things are back to where they need to be, and you can get that notification to you, or you can go back and quickly run a search. So all of this can be delivered to you either after the fact, through the search engine that we talked about, or it can in fact come to your cell phone. So here's an example that shows a notification of a person out here, and you can set that up for a schedule, so it doesn't have to be 24/7. If you wanted to set up a temporary schedule just because you're having an event, certainly you can do that. If it's entirely scheduled, it really makes your video camera, your video system, into something that you can depend on, to help you do your jobs better. All right. The next thing we hear a lot of is sharing video is a clumsy and slow process. So we talked about if you have a break-in, an incident, what have you. Today, you're likely, going down to your video system or asking someone to do that to your video recorder, popping in a CD or maybe a USB drive, and then copying a whole bunch of video on it, which is, again, you've got it tendered, it's labor-intensive, you've got to be on premise. Again, with the power of the cloud, you don't have to do that. It's really simple to search. Once you have searched and found what you need to find, going back to the example of the slip and fall, you can just export it right from your web browser, and you can in fact share it with anyone you would like to send it to. Here's an example, right? So you go back and run a search, you get a bunch of hits, and let's say that's the clip, that's the incident you cared about with a suspicious-looking guy, entering the door here. All you have to do is click that email button, and it opens up your email program. You can forward that to any number of folks you want to send it to, and then they would be able to see that. If you wanted to actually save it and keep it around for later use, you can do that as well, and say, just go ahead and export this video for me. You can do it right off of your web browser from anywhere, and it's going to save that video in an MP4 file that you can play back on your computer, your PC, Mac, tablet, phone, what have you, or you can again package that, email it to anyone you wish. Matter of fact, you can almost do better than that. We've had a couple of customers that, when they get approached by law enforcement for video evidence, rather than spending the time, even though it's this easy, the fact is, the matter is, because you have unlimited user accounts here, they just give a temporary account for just the camera or two that the police care about to them, and say, okay, you can go ahead and conduct your investigation, pull all the video you need, and when you're done, we're just going to shut down that account. So you got all that flexibility to really, mix and match and have the right level of authorization and access for people that do need it, and that's just a huge time savings. All right, I'm sure as you've been listening to this all sounds good and great, but I'm sure it must be really expensive. Well, it turns out it's not. In fact, in most cases, if you have an existing system on site, you could keep your cameras and convert them to a smart system, or you can add new cameras. And that's all possible because, in fact, there are different life cycles for any video security system, right? So if you look at a video security system, you always have cameras, you always have recorders, and in fact, they have different lifetimes, right? If you look at a video recorder, it's got a spinning hard drive that's moving all the time because it's recording 24/7. That's going to wear out pretty quickly. So 3 years and your video recorder, your servers, your software, whatever else you have on site, probably is in need of major service or replacement. Not the case with cameras. Your cameras are good for 7 years, maybe even 10 years. I've seen cameras 10, 12 years old in some cases. And the picture may just be fine, 3 years downstream. So you do not need to replace your cameras as often as you need to replace your recorders. And in fact, there's a great option here when you have the need to replace, a recorder, you could just replace it with one of these smart recorders here, which we call a gateway. And for about the cost of a recorder that you would have spent anyway, you're going to be able to leapfrog and move to the latest generation with search capability and the smarts and video analytics that's built in. If you so choose today, just to add search capability as an overlay on your existing system, you could do that as well. Keep your DVR, keep your cameras. You can still add this capability. And then more importantly, if you're considering a brand new system, we would, in this day and age, definitely recommend that you go with a high definition camera. The price difference between a standard definition and high definition camera is negligible today. So you should really consider, for all your new camera needs, put in a high definition camera. And in fact, if you have some cameras that are in need of repair or replacement, it's a great option to just move to high definition. And the beauty of this is, because it's all cloud connected, is that you can combine them in any form. So if you're looking to upgrade your system or or replace your current system, you might sometimes be looking at a big expense, a big capital expenditure, because most vendors will come in and say, hey, you got to rip and change out the whole recording system and the head end and the cabling and everything else. Here you can actually make it smart with the cameras that are good, and then as your cameras continue to age, you can just start replacing those older cameras with the newer HD cameras. And so over time you can grow into something, and you really don't have to do a big forklift capital expenditure. So very very cost effective, very incremental path to getting there. Clearly, if you're trying to get to a brand new system, the camera is all you need here, and I'm going to cover that here in a minute. The reason this becomes very cost effectively is because if you look at how the world has changed, again in the past decade or so, and you look at what we are doing with email, for example. A lot of you probably are familiar with Microsoft Outlook. You use it at work to get your email, but likely do not use it at home for your personal use. I use Gmail or Hotmail or Yahoo or what have you. So the big difference there is that Outlook is an on-premise solution. So your organization has had to purchase servers and software and licenses, and then you need this piece of software called Outlook on your PC, and someone needs to set it up for you, someone in IT most likely. And when you have an issue or a problem, that's who you call. I can't remember the last time. I can't remember the first time I called someone in IT at Gmail. It's just there. It just works. It doesn't go down, and I can get it from anywhere, right? A lot more flexible. So that's the big sea change, if you will, right? Rather than buying all that servers and software infrastructure up front and trying to run it yourself, certainly as you go to a larger number of cameras, you go to multiple locations, you can just go with the power of what I would call, a massive amount of shared infrastructure, as Gmail does. A different analogy would be, back in the day, if you wanted to watch a movie, I would drive to Blockbuster. If they stocked 5 copies of that movie and they were all out, well, too bad, watch something else. So they were in the business of buying and stocking movies. Netflix, on the other hand, today is streaming it through the cloud. So Netflix doesn't get impacted whether one person or 5 or 50,000 people are watching the same movie at the same time. And the same thing in the video security world translates back to advantages you would get. In the case of an emergency, if you need 10 people to jump on and watch that video, the power of the cloud lets you do that. Okay, you're not going to, have to stop and think about, oh, do I need to add a software license? I'm not in the building. There's an emergency going on. Can I still get access to it? Do I need to download some piece of software? None of that, right? You should be able to get access to the video system. Any number of people should be able to get access to your video system anytime they please, without having to go out and spend more money or do other things. So it's just a whole different paradigm shift, and that's happening in the security space as well. And so when we looked at this and really examined where the costs lie, it actually is pretty interesting. So today, video security systems, the way they are sold, these are some of the cost components, right? So if you take a typical 16 camera, high definition cameras with a recorder on-site, on-premise solution, this little chart here shows you, how the costs break down, right? Your cameras and cable, about 42%, and so on and so forth. But what's interesting here is that your recorder, which I call the server, and storage, and the software that's running on it, is about 32% of the cost, the capital expenditure that you're spending up front to get that system. All right, and that system is as good as the day you bought it, and it's never getting any better. Okay. Now, it also happens, as we said, recorders fail every 3 years. So 3 years down the road, you're likely going to be replacing that 32% chunk with something that's more current. Or if you're not replacing it, you're certainly doing updates, upgrades, more software. There's a new version of Windows 10, 11, whatever it is. And so that's an expense that continues to be an ongoing expense. What cloud-based systems do is they eliminate that server and software on site. That server and software now moves to the cloud. It's not your video that's moving to the cloud. Your video stays on site. Okay, so you have all of that recording is happening on site. But what cloud can give you in addition to on-premise systems is backup, should you choose to. So your video can also be backed up, or parts of it can be backed up in the cloud, so that there's no single point of failure. You're not losing everything. So we talked about, hey, you're trying to go back and investigate something, and a lot of times folks discover that, oh, my recorder just wasn't working. It was not recording, and I've lost video feeds from all my cameras. Not the case here. So we record on the camera itself, and then we back up things on the server. Matter of fact, we had a customer recently send me a clip of a guy walking up to a camera and smashing it with a baseball bat. And the interesting part about the clip was that the camera, with its video analytics technology, had already detected the person walking up to the camera and had taken that and backed up that video off-site. And so the evidence had left the building, and we got a great, almost a selfie shot of the guy walking up to the camera, really up close. Clearly, they got an arrest out of it. So great story there. So offsite backup is real important. You can only get that with cloud infrastructure. As I said, it's going to lower your IT and maintenance expenses because you don't have to own and run that whole thing yourself. It's really delivered to you as a service, and at the same time, it's going to be more secure and available. Right? It's not going to require a lot of help from your IT person or other resources for you to log in and do what have you. It's just going to be there. The software continues to be updated all the time, so it's not as good as the day you bought it. It continues to be current all the time, and then you get the benefit of unlimited everything, users, locations, cameras. It doesn't matter. It all gets stitched together into one whole system. So lots of advantages, and in fact, you're going to see that your upfront costs are actually going to be lower than an equivalent system that would be on-premise. Plus, you get a lot of advantages. So we really believe that the system we call Kastle Video does completely redefine how we approach video security and how we use it in our lives. It's just a different, new way to manage your day-to-day, to look at your business, go back and search for things that you would care about, share them with folks that need to know, get notified about specific things that you want to get notified about in real time. It's just different. We believe it's a breakthrough, and we have had a lot of customers tell us exactly that. So hopefully this has helped you. We are obviously here to answer more questions. Feel free to reach back out to us. We'll be happy to discuss pricing with you, any projects that you have or are considering coming up. More than happy to help you with that. That's the email address there, info@kastle.com. And thank you all for participating. I'll leave the line open for questions for a few minutes here in case there are any. Do type them into the questions section if you would, and certainly we can answer them. Thanks again, everyone. All right, any questions? All right, very good then. Thanks a lot one more time, and please feel free to reach out. Okay, bye. Thank you.